That's Retro Fandango. That's Retro Fandango. When it's Android over iPhone and you can keep your stupid amiibo and always bashing on Nintendo. But that's Retro Fandango. That's Retro Fandango. Thanks, Retro Fandango. Oh, wow.
Hello.
I love that intro.
Do you? I just threw it together. Like, I can't even remember why I made it.
It shows the level of effort. It's plain as day.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You know, I was actually in a store the other day, and I looked at the amiibos.
Yes.
A bunch of amiibos on the shelf. And I was like, I don't know who any of these characters are.
Yeah.
Like, what happened to Mario and Donkey Kong and everything? Now it's like some kind of weird dragon, or I don't know, probably some Splatoon thing.
Isn't that good in a way, though? Doesn't that show that Nintendo is actually growing a little bit? They're not just relying on the same old IPs over and over again.
I think it just means I'm old and I'm so out of touch with what's going on with gaming.
Well, that could be too.
Yeah.
But that's good. You should be out of touch. You're not the age where you should be in touch. You should be out of touch.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've had my time. I leave it for the kiddies now.
Like, can you imagine if Nintendo did something silly, like, I don't know, instead of making a new Metroid game, just release like Metroid Prime again? Like, wouldn't that be just so lame?
I saw some mentions of Metroid something on the internet, and I didn't read a single one of them.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
Oh.
Sauce is here. He's complaining about Japan already. Let's see. There's probably those Fire Emblem characters that are big in Japan.
In Japan, yeah.
Japan. Could be.
Very possible. I remember for a while there was like Street Fighter guys, and the one I always debated on was the Little Mac. It's like, hey, let me get that Little Mac guy. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
$20. Nah, not that cool.
Yeah, they used to be around $14 here. Now when I see them, they're always over $20.
Well, because now they're collectibles.
Well, I mean, just like even brand new ones that just come up. But
Can you still use those? Like, you still use them with the games and stuff? Because that was like the Wii U.
Oh yeah, you can still use them on the Switch. I think I'm pretty sure you can. But I think the only game I ever actually used them in, maybe I used them in Mario Kart. But definitely the Zelda Breath of the Wild. I used them in that because you got like a horse or something. But that was it.
Yeah, it just looks like a toy to me.
Coincidentally enough, today I got a notification on my phone because my camera sends me now anniversary photos. Like, hey, check out this photo you took 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the last amiibo I bought. I had bought a Ridley amiibo 3 years ago.
Ooh.
Actually, no, it's not right.
It's a Metroid thing.
Yeah. It's in the other room. But there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact. Sauce says yes, they all have small hidden bonuses. So I think you could still use them with the Switch.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. There's your amiibo talk. Circa 2018, 2019. They're still around, still doing their thing. Okay,
good for them. Good for them.
I'm excited for them. I'm all happy for them. I think I'm selling my Switch again. I
thought you sold your Switch. You have another Switch?
Yeah, I bought a Switch Lite. Like before we moved, I had packed all my video game stuff away. So I still needed something. So we had points at the Shoppers Drug Mart. And they had like a special weekend thing. Basically, this thing ended up costing me $40. And it's just sitting there. I actually powered it up. It was completely dead the other day. And I powered it up again. And I turned it on and I went to the e-store and looked around, and there's still nothing there for me.
Hmm.
The only game I played on it, I was playing baseball on it, Mega Baseball 3, and then I bought Golf Story, which is kind of like old school RPG, but instead of fighting guys, you play golf against them.
Mm.
It's fun. It's kind of like that old Mario Golf, for the Game Boy kind of thing. So, but yeah, I powered it up. I actually powered it up because I was stuck watching the Super Bowl. The first time I watched the Super Bowl in like maybe 10, maybe 15 years. It's been a long time.
Is this because of your new social status? You like hang out with people?
No, I just kind of I don't know. I had like some sort of weird inclination to watch it because I wanted to stream it for free. It just felt like I was getting one over on the man. So like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna fire up that Super Bowl. I'm gonna see if I can watch it for free. And it was there. It was. We only had Sarah and I watched a bit of it, and we only had maybe about 15 seconds of porn pop up while we were trying to watch. Because this site just had like these weird pop-up ads, and all of a sudden, like, I needed to refresh the window, so I went to refresh the window, and then all of a sudden, just hardcore pornography popped up.
Right.
I'm like, oh, well, it's a good thing to know in case the kids are over, to maybe not suggest that we do some illegal streaming.
Okay.
While they're here. So that was a good lesson.
Wait a minute. I don't know. I've never watched a Super Bowl. It's not just on regular network television. You have to pay to see it.
It is on regular network television, but I don't have regular network television anymore. I don't have any cable, no satellite. All I have is the internet.
That confused me. Like, you can't just get regular network television anymore. You have to subscribe to some streaming service to get like NBC or ABC or something like that.
No. I just don't have it. I don't have cable.
But I mean, why do you need cable? Can't you just turn on the television and get access to standard channels?
What do you mean? Like over the air? Do
yeah,
you not
like
know
that
how
doesn't
television works?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Well, I don't know about where you are. Where I am, if you buy a television and you plug it into your wall, you can watch TV.
Yeah, you could sort of do that if you have an antenna. You can watch over the air television.
Yeah, do you not have an antenna anymore?
I don't live close enough to the United States to get signals from the United States.
Okay. See, there's my problem. I just don't know how it's set up over there.
So I couldn't just plug in my TV, though. I'd have to get an antenna for it. And in order to get half decent signal, I would have to put an antenna up on the roof. And at that, I think I would get the Super Bowl. I think CTV were the ones that were airing the Super Bowl. I'm not sure. I don't know. But no, I didn't. I'm not going to spend money on an antenna. It has to be like I'd have to get one that goes on the roof. There's no way an antenna just on my TV would be able to pull in any signals. But when I was down in Toronto, I did have an antenna that would get all the networks, and but like, you had no way of recording it or anything. Like there was no PVR to it or anything. Anyways, yeah.
All I know is that once in a while, once a year, I suppose, I go to like Yahoo or something like that, and suddenly there's all these mentions about Super Bowl something, and that's how I know, oh, there was a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, you didn't miss much. I mean, for the first time, like it was, I don't know if it's my memory or if the show has gotten worse or my memories of it are kind of not accurate. I don't know, but I don't remember there being as much pomp and circumstance as it was this time. Like, it was like the national anthem. There was like this whole big build up to the national anthem, and they had to play America the Beautiful. They had someone come out play America the Beautiful before the national anthem. Then they finally get to the national anthem. Then they do the coin toss. Like, I think the game was supposed to start at 6:30, and it actually didn't start till like 10-7. There was so much pomp and circumstance, and just kept going on and on and on. The one thing I did like, though, is Babyface did America the Beautiful, I don't really know him at all, but he was
Babyface.
that's his name, and he was playing left-handed guitar, but he didn't restring it. So like your sixth string, which would be on the top if you're playing right-handed, was like on the bottom kind of thing. It's kind of neat because he had to make up his own chords, in order to. So he's doing that all from ear. So I thought that was pretty cool. But that was it. And so then we sat and we watched the game, the first 2 quarters of the game, anyways. And I realized why I stopped watching football, because it was so boring. I mean, it was just stop and go, and then the commercials come on. The commercials are pretty lame. Like they go on and on about these commercials. The only half decent one was they had Steve Martin in one commercial where he kind of pretends. It was like a Pepsi commercial, and he was like selling Pepsi. He was kind of playing on the fact that he's an actor. So he's like sipping the Pepsi. He's like, "Oh, this Pepsi's so great," or "Is it?" Kind of thing. And it was pretty clever. But I had already seen it. He had shared it on his Twitter page like a few days before the Super Bowl. So,
are you allowed to do that?
I guess he was. I mean, so anyways, we watched the halftime show. That was boring too. And we turned it off after that. I don't even know who won. I'm not even sure. I hear
you should then instead of using your points for a Switch and spending your time watching the Super Bowl, you should have bought a fishing pole and went out to the lake.
The lakes are frozen right now.
Yeah, but you probably would have had more fun.
I don't. I'm not really a fan of fishing.
I could see you as a fisherman sitting out at the lake with one of those little bucket hats.
I'm really not.
Like the old guys there, do they wear the vests and then stuff everything in the pockets?
Maybe. Oh, Saw says the Chiefs won.
The chefs.
Oh, the chefs. The chefs won. Then he corrected one, but not chefs.
The chefs won.
No, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of fishing. I used to fish off a dock at my grandparents' cottage, and I would just I'd find
I got fishing lures right here.
Yeah, that's what I would use. I'd find the crappiest lure and just
these are good lures. These are Rapalas.
Well, I would purposely use the crappy ones because I didn't really want to catch a fish. I just wanted to relax and throw the line out. So are you saying you're a fisherman?
No, when I was a kid, I would go fishing with my grandfather, my uncle, all the time. They had a little boat. We go out and catch fish early in the morning. And my favorite part was getting bagels and hot chocolate on the way to the river because it was 5:00 in the morning or something.
Yeah.
And then we'd go sit out there and catch some fish, and it was fun. But I haven't fished at all in my adult life.
But you kept the lures.
I keep the lures because it's just a little memory. A lot of these are my grandfather's lures, so I just stuck them in a little thing, and I leave them in my desk for some reason.
All right, well, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
See what I did there? All right.
That was clever.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of chat here in the lots of comments in the chat. Oh my goodness. About cable and stuff. Yes, we do have over the air here in Canada. But it's like the local television stations. So it's not like we get all the major networks, American or Canadian.
That still sounds like Sauce is defending my stance. So I'm happy about that.
Defending your stance?
Yes, and that I was like, wait, you can't just get TV, over-the-air TV?
Well, no, you didn't say that. You said I can't just plug in a television and get TV. That was the confusing part.
My assumption is that every house has an antenna.
No.
And I don't know that, because you're in Canada and picking up signals from the US.
Well, I'm far north. It's more popular down south, where I was down south. A lot of houses.
Yeah, you used to be, in the US area,
Yeah,
closer
and
to the
I would
border.
pull in shows. I would pull in channels from Buffalo and Rochester. Like the channel that I would get better than any. Like there was a bunch on the CN Tower that was in Toronto, but the channel I would get the best was CW from Rochester. That thing, like I could just have like a piece of tinfoil in on the antenna thing, and the TV would be in the basement, and CW would come in. The amount of power that they were putting out, and that's the other thing in the States too. They don't have any restrictions on the amount of power that they can output. So they can output like 4,000 watts, um, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is for a digital signal. And meanwhile, like the signal that we were putting off when I was working at a television station in Toronto, the signal that we were putting off of the CN Tower was a half a watt, because where the CN Tower is located on the Lake Ontario, we didn't want to waste power sending a signal over the lake because that would cost energy. So we cut our 1 watt tower in half, so it would only shoot over the city. And it was crappy signal anywhere past like Major Mac. Anyways, there's your inside Canadian television talk.
Gotcha. Half a watt.
Half a watt. So the watts up here, it's not that much stronger. So all right.
We're not supposed to sip at the same time.
What else do we want to talk about?
I can talk about an exciting version of football.
All right.
That I got in my stacks here.
All right.
Are we ready to jump into this?
Sure. Let's go. I don't have many visual aids with me today because most of what I watched was downloaded or streamed.
Ugh.
I know. Well, here's the thing. The physical outlet for Blu-rays, for Arrow Blu-rays, in Canada, the online store is having a sale.
Ooh.
So there were a bunch of movies that I was on the fence of, so I decided to download them before I actually bought them, because I wanted to try before I buy. So that's why I was kind of like scrambling to get those in before the sale finishes.
Arrow. I have one Arrow Blu-ray. Just like to wager a guess.
Yours is it should be RoboCop.
It is not. I don't have RoboCop.
Or Tremors. You should have that one as well.
No, but I do have a steelbook of Tremors.
Oh, that's pretty good. So I'm gonna guess it's got to be Resident Evil, because that's.
Oh, do they make them?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
but I was just going with the. Odds.
I didn't bring it, but I did. Did I? Oh, I might have mentioned that one already. Anyway. No, I have.
Sauce was Chef's joke. That was a joke. It was a reference to a Snickers commercial. I might not have made it that far. Might have been in the second half. There you go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's Elvira. I have Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because I just happened to run across it. I got my stack of movies here, and the very first one. Hey, Duke. Here. Oh wait, Duke. What did I do here? I thought I had something for Duke in this stack of movies, but now I can't remember what it was. It's too early. All right, my first movie here.
Goodness.
My first movie here is one that I'm very curious to hear your defense of. I watched Moonrise Kingdom.
You didn't like it?
I'm very interested to hear your defense of the film.
My defense?
Yes. You said that's a good one.
I loved it.
Curtis said that's a good one.
Yeah. It was a great coming-of-age story.
Give me a little more.
What do you mean? I don't know what I'm defending.
I don't know. I watched it, and
Yeah.
I like the story.
Okay.
I like a lot of the visual style and his particular way of framing these shots and making it look like some kind of weird fairy tale kind of thing.
Sounds like you like the movie to me.
I can't stand the way he has his actors deliver dialogue
Okay.
in that very flat, emotionless, unrealistic manner where everything is just kind of said very flatly. It's something about it takes me out of the movie so much, and I start getting so bored. I understand what's going on in the film. I hated the kids too.
Sauce says Vox hates kids, and you know what? You're
Yes.
right. That's what it is. It's about the
No, that
kids.
that that is definitely part of it because the main kid, I forget his name, but the way he delivers, like the way they deliver dialogue and the dialogue that was written for him. I hate when kids are delivering dialogue that sounds like it's for adults, and it just he did it a lot with some of the secondary kids. There'd be a group of them, and they'd all just very quickly, "This is my line. This is my line. This is my line. This is my line," and they deliver these weird lines that kids wouldn't say. It's very intentional. I don't get it. I like a lot of what was going on in the story, but I don't know. The delivery just I can't get into it.
Okay. Okay.
I
I mean, I
I
like
need
that stuff. I like
I
it.
am very interested in hearing someone's opinion of the film. I want to hear more detail though. I want to hear how like it doesn't bother you when people just start delivering this flat dialogue. There's no emotions going on and
No.
really.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
doesn't
know.
bother me. I mean, like it can bother me, but it didn't in that movie. It. I mean, there's so little originality, new anything in movies. Like it's all really the same stories over and over again. So when a movie like that comes along and it does it in its own unique voice, tells its story in its own unique voice, I appreciate it. Now,
Mhm.
I'm. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to like it. Obviously, you were a person who didn't like it, but I did.
No, I
I don't.
liked the movie. I did not like the performances.
Okay.
I don't understand that part of his directing style of how he wants everyone to just deliver pretty much in the same way. Most of the characters deliver their dialogue exactly the same way.
It's a style. It's a style. It's like
Yeah.
there's a cartoonist, right? They post. I see his stuff online all the time, and he does this weird thing where he'll have like a profile of a character, and you know how like the eyes on a lot of cartoons, like the eyes are really close together, right? So you kind of see the whole face in profile. And he does this weird thing where he has the one eye here, and then he puts the other pupil like way out there. It's just out there, like
Hmm.
it's floating in space, and the eyebrow, it's just out there, it's floating in space. It looks really weird, and a lot of people say they don't like that, like they can't get past that style. And to me, it's just that's the artist's representation of it. It's fine. It doesn't bother me because the content of the cartoon itself is good. It's I'm entertained by it. They're usually pretty funny. So I will let that slide in order to enjoy it. And, you know, that's just the artist's interpretation.
Yeah,
So
I get
it's
it.
not
I just no, I'm all for it. Again, I don't hate the movie. I don't hate the kids, even though people are going to keep saying that over and over again. But yeah, I can't click with the style. I can't even
okay.
say I dislike the style. Uh, hmm. It's a strange choice. It's his choice. Go for it.
It's just like not everything is meant to be realistic, right? It's like he
I
had
don't expect it to be realistic in a lot of different ways, but when people don't seem to behave like people, that's what takes me out.
okay. There's
Napoleon Dynamite, that's another one that
there's-
I really like that movie, but it is extremely odd how it is delivered.
So there you go. Yeah, well, yeah, Napoleon Dynamite. That's another good example. But I like that stuff. I think it's good. I think it's funny.
I can tolerate Napoleon Dynamite a lot more than this one.
But I gotta say, like that guy's
there weren't a lot of
movies.
kids.
I can't remember the name of the guy that does those movies, but he's really hit or miss with me. And that one clicked.
Yeah, Wes Anderson.
Yeah, that's it. That one really clicked for me. I really enjoyed that one.
All right. Well, one I did like was Dog Day Afternoon.
That's a very practical film.
That was very good.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in a very long time, though, so don't ask me anything about it.
No, I just, from the get-go, it was just, yes, I'm on board. I like this. I love the fact that, sorry, spoilers, anyone out there, as soon as they go in, like, one guy backs out immediately. You know, they walk in and then they're holding up a bank, and then the one guy is just like, "No, I can't do this," and then he disappears. He's gone from the movie forever. He doesn't come back in the third act and help them out or anything. It's just,
crime films definitely had their renaissance in the 70s. That is for sure.
Yeah, what I really liked about this was the balance of humor, given the situation. Because as I was watching it, I kept picturing if somebody did this today, they'd go overboard on the humor. They'd focus on it too much to the point that it would distract from what's actually going on. Here, you got the hostages and, they're talking back to their captors. They're making fun of him. They're questioning his decisions. At certain points, they're just relaxing and hanging out because they're waiting for all of this to go through. But it never got to the point where it was obnoxious with the comedy, and it felt like they're not taking the situation seriously enough. And yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't think people would have that sort of patience to get through that. Oh, I'm just realizing this was also directed by Sidney Lumet. I watched another one of his films this week.
Sid is good.
Sid. It's not that good?
All right,
Bronx Tale.
Oh yeah, it's not. I agree.
It's okay, but it certainly has its problems.
Yeah, that is one of those movies. Like, it's that couple of scenes in that movie stick out in my head. The one where the girl unlocks the door, where he tells him, like, you got yourself a winner there if she unlocks the door for you. Like, he opens up the door for her, lets her in, and walks around the car, and he's watching, and she unlocks the door for him, and he tells her that's a keeper. And then the other one is the $20 thing that I think we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Where it's like, as soon as that guy, he was chasing after a guy who owed him $20, and he says to him, "Hey, just let that guy go." It's basically you paid him $20 to get him out of your life.
Yeah.
That's really only two good parts of the movie.
There are a couple other scenes that I like, a couple little shots here and there. There's a part where they're in the car, Chaz Palminteri's driving, and he drives backwards all the way to where he's going.
Oh yeah,
it's just a neat little shot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's some issues with the characters and the performances and some other things, like that scene where they do the unlocking the door thing. Mm-hmm. He's watching her, and then after she does it, he like jumps in the air and he's like,
that was too much.
It's too much. And at that moment in the story, they were rushing somewhere to like save somebody. It's like, don't stop and jump up and down in the street. You're breaking the tension here.
If I remember correctly, that movie was, I think, originally based on a one-man play kind of thing.
He had a one-man play, and part of his deal for selling the rights was that he got to write the screenplay.
Yeah.
Chaz Palminteri, and he wanted to play Sonny. So I don't know. Parts of it are very good. Parts of it are very weak.
The parts that are very good are probably from the one-man play. And
then he had to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And some of the dialogue is just not very good. I watched a Sylvester Stallone movie I've never heard of before called Nighthawks.
I have never heard of that as well.
It's an early Stallone. It's like 81.
Hmm.
It's Stallone and Billy D. Williams as no-nonsense street cops.
Oh, buddy
They
cop
go
movie?
undercover. They go undercover and, they bust perps on the street. And then
Yeah.
they get recruited for this special task force to take down this particular criminal, Rutger Hauer, the guy on the cover there.
Oh, I got a Rucker Hauer movie to talk about too.
Sounds great. And there are a couple scenes where Stallone and Billy D. Williams are walking around and they got like the whole 70s swagger going on.
Yeah.
Stallone's got this cool beard like in Rocky 4. And there's one part like they're just walking around and they're going up into a building and they got these long coats on, and then they get in the building, they pull out the shotguns, and then they like kick open doors and bust a bunch of guys and everything, and they're screaming in everybody's face. And it's great for that like 2 minutes, and you think this is going to be an awesome movie, and then it's boring. There's like a whole stretch of the movie is where they're sitting in some briefing room getting told about Rutger Hauer's character and what they have to look out for and how they're not allowed to go to the street yet because they got to study. And then the ending is so stupid. It's such a stupid ending.
You have even stumped Stallone, resident Stallone expert, Rocket Sauce. He's not heard of this movie.
Yeah.
Mr. Stuck in the 80s himself, Duke, has not heard of this movie as well.
Well, don't spend a lot for it. If you find it on VHS, give it a whirl.
Sauce says it sounds like you should have watched Tango and Cash.
Tango and Cash, honestly, is a better movie than this.
Tango.
This one has a good style of the time it was made. The city looks filthy. They're walking through these alleys and there's just trash everywhere.
I love that about 70s movies. We were just talking about that, about the 7-Ups, how they just the entire city is just garbage everywhere. They don't bother to clean it up. It's I love that because it's like that's how it was at the time.
It looks great. It looks great, and you want it to be great, but the story is pretty boring.
That's too bad.
Unlike Passenger 57 with Wesley Snipes.
I don't think I've seen.
You ever seen this one?
I don't
it's not
think
great.
So.
It's not great, but it is kind of fun when you're in the right mood for it. It falls in line with a lot of lesser Stallone or Van Damme kind of movies where don't expect much from the plot. But it's pretty fun if you're in the right mood for it. I remember seeing it years ago.
I think that came out around the Air Force One time, right?
Well, he is a security expert for airlines, and he's training them how to deal with if somebody, takes the plane hostage, hijacks the plane. And then that happens, and he's on the plane, and then he has to stop the bad guy and everything. Yeah, it's all right.
Straight to DVD, says Sauce.
No,
I think I remember that in theater.
This was early Snipes. This was him up and coming.
Yeah, I think I do remember
1992.
Yeah,
and 84 minutes. I don't care how mediocre your action movie is. If it's 84 minutes, that's a plus. Gothica with Halle Berry and Robert Downey Jr. before he soared off with
came back.
Iron
Man.
Bad.
Yeah,
bad
I've not
story.
Heard anyone say a good thing about that movie.
No, it's got a terrible script. It's very sloppy. There are lots of open-ended things. It feels like one of those movies where either the script was incomplete when they started, or it went through major rewrites as they were making it, because some stuff just makes no sense. It's completely up in the air. It's like, okay, now this is happening. Now this is happening. Why did this happen? Why did it go this way? And this scene, because it looked like a cool scene. That's why we did it. Bad movie. This one I picked up on a whim because for some reason I saw there was a lot of talk about this movie like a year ago, and I had never seen it, but people kept saying, "Oh, it's this underrated classic, and it's coming back, and they're making a sequel or something like that." I watched Hocus Pocus.
Oh,
With Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy. Najimy? I don't know how to say her name.
Peggy Hill from King of the Hill. She was also in those in your Sister Act movies.
Oh, she does Peggy Hill.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, and she's in your Sister Act movies.
Yeah, I know her from those. And she got totally fat shamed on this cover because she is a woman of size, and they clearly slimmed down her waistline for that artwork. This is kind of just a dumb kids movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way people were talking about it, it was like, and I saw a lot of stuff for this. I was in like one of those Halloween spirit stores, and there was all this stuff about the Sanderson sisters or something, and people were going on like, "Oh yeah, Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus." I'm glad I found it for just a couple bucks because it's just a dumb kids movie.
I
thought there was something big in there or something.
I think the people that you saw that were going on about it were at least 10 years younger than you, possibly 20.
That is what I'm believing.
Yes.
Apparently this was like a big kids movie.
Yeah.
For that generation.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I hear people go on about like The Sandlot. I've never seen The Sandlot.
Sarah and I tried to watch it a couple of years ago, and now that movie, I have seen people who are older than me really love that movie. And I don't know, maybe we're just in a mood or something, but I didn't like it at all. And I love baseball.
It's one of those Mighty Duck kind of movies, right?
I guess.
Group of kids that they're no good, and then they get a coach. And
no, it doesn't fall. It's they're playing in a sandlot, and the ball goes into the neighbor's yard, and he's a creepy neighbor, and they have to get the ball back because they had some rule that they had to use the same ball kind of thing. I don't know, I can't remember, but anyways, creepy neighbor. It wasn't really like one of those Disney,
I got it.
Yeah,
one of those generational kid movies that means a lot to them. Got it. All right, now we're getting into the Kevin movies. I imagine this is a Kevin movie.
Can you hear me rubbing my hands together?
Well, let's see if it's a Kevin movie. Can you tell me the name of the movie?
I'll
tell you who's in it.
All right.
Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
Chevy Chase.
Yeah. I did look at your post with the photos of it, and I looked through it. So I did see that Foul Play was in there. Yeah. I gave it 2 stars.
2 stars?
Yeah.
I had a somewhat lukewarm reaction to it until I was like thinking about it a little bit more, and I genuinely enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. It is a little strange in that Chevy Chase kind of appears at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he's gone for like 45 minutes.
Yep.
And then he comes back and does some Chevy Chase stuff.
That was
he's fairly straight in this movie.
Yeah. I look back at what I said, and I'm like, it needed more Chevy Chase. Goldie Hawn's fine, but it needed more Chevy Chase. And it's other than that, I don't really remember that much from the movie, other than he wasn't in it very long.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of like what's his name? Arthur. Dudley Moore. Pops in and out of the movie. He's got some really good scenes. Burgess Meredith is in it. He has a great karate fight.
Was that the movie where Dudley Moore, he's got the bed?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Comes out the wall and everything.
Coming back to me. Yeah.
I did like it. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It was a little long. It's almost 2 hours. Lots of little cameos and things in here. It was fun stuff. I know. I give it a pass. I give it more stars than you did.
Okay. Well, it's probably one of those things where like I went in expecting this, and I only got this, and you probably went in expecting this, and you got this. So
there you go. Fair enough.
That's how it goes.
I watched the last of my Chuck Norris movies.
Yes.
Which I think was the Delta Force. I can't remember. I think I watched the other ones first. Yeah, that I watched them in chronological order.
Okay.
The Delta Force is a pretty good movie
Okay.
when Chuck Norris is not in it.
Oh.
It feels like they had movie A, and they're like, we're gonna make this movie, and then they said, okay, we're gonna bring Chuck Norris in. Let's shoot Chuck Norris scenes and then mix them with
Oh.
this movie. Now it's not exactly like that. It's not a clear like they just edited some footage in there, but it's about a plane hijacking, and the scenes in the plane with the hijackers and everything are honestly pretty good. It goes to the level of being a regular drama thriller and not a Chuck Norris action movie. Then they have the scenes of Chuck Norris and his team doing their let's get ready, let's team up, we're going to go get them. Come on guys, yay. And that feels very hokey.
Mm.
There's even a whole bit at the beginning of Chuck Norris being like kind of jaded, and he leaves the team, but then he has to be pulled back in for the mission, which makes no sense on VHS. I knew it.
Duke also watched the movie on VHS.
Yeah. How did you like it, Duke?
He said he liked the motorcycle.
The motorcycle was pretty cool, and that's part of the stupid action thing, but it's great. He shoots missiles and stuff from his motorcycle.
His motorcycle, right on.
But some parts of the movie, it felt like this is honestly pretty good. There's moments in the airplane where they're singling out passengers, and the terrorists discover that some of the passengers are Jewish, and they're trying to signal them out. But then the flight attendant who they're using is of German descent, and she starts arguing like, I'm not going to do this. You can kill me. I'm not going to be responsible for the death of like don't you see the parallels between Nazi Germany and this? I can't do it. And there's all this tension going on. It's like this is fairly deep. This is pretty good. Then Chuck Norris comes in and starts kicking people, and
well, it sounds like Duke agrees with your assessment of the movie.
yeah, it's not bad. And then when it gets to the end, it's like a half hour of just, punching, kicking, blowing things up. Fun stuff. I did see the Hellboy reboot from a couple years ago.
Okay.
Meh.
Ah.
Lots of good stuff in there, but also a movie that feels like it's... I haven't read the Hellboy comics. I know a little bit about them, but it feels like they wanted to say, okay, we're going to take this and put it in there. We're going to take this from this comic, put it in there. There's a lot of side story or like extra things that didn't need to be in there that the fans would like because they would recognize stuff from the movie, from the comics.
I still haven't seen it.
Meet the Parents.
Okay. What'd you think of that? This is one of Sarah's favorite movies all time.
You told me that. I
Watched
believe
it
you.
all the time.
I was expecting more from the beginning. I thought it started pretty... I don't know if this is going in a great direction for me. A little bit later on, it clicked.
Mm-hmm.
It took a little time for it to click with me. I guess from the premise, I was expecting a lot more goofy comedy, which, you get the cat and stuff like that. But it wasn't until halfway through it started hitting like Clark Griswold levels of shenanigans.
That's a good comparison.
Once they started spiking volleyballs and setting things on fire, I was like, okay, this is really fun.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, when it was just, oh, you don't like cats, you're a dog person. I'm a cat person.
Yeah,
you're a dog person. Yeah. I was waiting. Is this all there is? But then it ramped up.
It's one of those movies for me that the first time I watched it, I thought it was okay, but it wasn't like, it's not a comedy. That's up there. Mm-hmm. And then there was a period of time where Sarah, she had thrown in her back out, and the movie was on. I think we had the movie channels at the time or something, and they were just playing it on TV. So it's like, oh, we've seen this movie before. We put it on, you fall asleep,
whatever, it doesn't matter. And it's one of those movies that just kept getting better the more times you've seen it. And
I can see it.
I swear it was that Leslie Nielsen thing where it's like you're waiting for the moments of like, okay, you get the whole thing with the cat, but you're waiting for him like to come up with like I can milk the cat kind of thing and all those kind of bits,
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't know. It's set up enough things that towards the end it was paying off for me.
yeah.
Um,
Duke didn't like
yeah.
it. He said it was bad and it was predictable humor.
one
Predictable
thing
humor.
that one thing that I find it sometimes it's difficult to judge some of these comedies, especially ones that were from an era where people went to the movies to see movies,
Yeah.
because the editing is made for audience reaction. So a lot of times there'll be a joke and then there'll be like a really weird pause. And I'm like, this pacing feels strange. If it were in a movie theater, there'd be a big laugh, and you'd have to have that extra time for people to calm down before we get to the next little bit of dialogue. So they were edited for the audience reactions, but when you sit and watch it at home and you're not laughing, especially if you're watching it alone or just small group, then the pacing feels really weird. So sometimes when I'm watching a movie like that, I have to remember that if I were in a crowd, it'd probably have a different reaction.
Mm.
All right, I'm gonna speed through a couple more. I watched another Critters movie. I watched Critters 3 with let's see if you can see it there in all caps. Where is
Did I
it?
see Leo?
Yes, you did. If I could find it on this camera.
Up, go up.
Up. There
There
we
it
go.
is. Leo.
Leonardo DiCaprio is the blah 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 blah. He had he was younger before he hit it. This is probably like Growing Pains days. Did you know he was on Growing Pains?
I did. Yeah. Yes.
I want to say the script is kind of on par with the other movies in terms of silliness and goofiness.
Yeah.
I kind of want to blame this one on the director.
Oh.
I kind of want to blame it on the director because I think somebody else probably could have made this a little closer in tone to the first two, which again are not brilliant movies, but they're entertaining. This one had a lot of great moments. It had a lot of interesting things. You haven't seen the Critters movies. You don't know
Haven't
anything
seen a
about
single
them.
one. No.
This one, they definitely seem to be going a little bit more for like a Gremlins vibe, which the whole thing is basically just a rip off of Gremlins. But one thing I really liked that they did is they had one of these critters, and it rolls in some bleach. They're in an apartment building, and it's in the basement, and it rolls around in some bleach, and then its face gets bleached white, and it has a streak of white hair. And it was nice because they had never really signaled out like one critter in these movies. And I thought that was neat. And there were a couple of neat effects they did.
Is that like, was it Spike in Gremlins?
Stripe and then
Or Stripe?
Spike.
Oh, okay.
Stripe was in part. I'm going to talk about Gremlins too. I guess something else to say. Okay,
Right.
I watched Exit Wounds.
Poor bastard.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. I watched one of your movies again.
Okay.
Burt Reynolds in The
I
Longest
grabbed
Yard.
I grabbed my Longest Yard so we could compare DVDs.
Hey, look at
Mine's
that.
the lockdown edition.
Oh, you know what? When I bought this, there were two copies. This is just standard old regular movie, and then they had like one that was a collector's edition, and it was a couple bucks more. And I was like, I don't know. This one's only like $1, so let's see how it is. Very enjoyable movie.
Oh, you liked it.
I did.
Okay, I'm surprised. I'm actually a little
That
surprised.
Burt Reynolds sure knows how to throw a lady on the floor.
Yeah, he does.
he looked like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
No, it was a good movie. Scott Howard's father from Teen Wolf was in it.
That's right. Yep.
Caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
No, good movie. Entertaining. Fun.
It
Some strange editing towards the end. All the like
okay, yeah,
panels
that
going
was
on.
very 24-ish. Yeah.
I've never seen 24, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, if anyone has seen 24, that they know what I'm talking about. But well, they did that quite a bit. I think MASH did that too, right? With the
The
football.
movie?
Yeah. Didn't they do
Never
the football?
seen it.
I might be remembering
I,
wrong.
I, I'm
Anyway,
thinking of that first Ang Lee Hulk movie where they were doing comic panels.
Yes.
A lot of that.
Right. Well,
And,
funny enough, I didn't think you would like that movie because a lot of it, Adam Sandler took a lot from that movie and put it into his own.
I do know that he remade the movie.
He did remake the movie, which is terrible. But even his his other films like Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore and that, they do follow the formula that movie has set out. Where it just sets up like all these characters and then they get them together and do this thing. Like a lot of his movies follow that exact same formula. And even up to like the big guy who's really kind of the dopey big guy kind of thing.
Well, that's the thing. They had two dopey big guys in this. You
That's
had
true.
the Jaws guy.
Yeah.
And then there was some other like hillbilly guy that they introduced, but he didn't really seem to do anything. Maybe he hit somebody at the end. I don't know.
So I thought that formula might have turned you off, but
no,
I guess it's not done in Adam Sandler's voice, so I guess
no. I am totally. I have no problem with any genre as long as it's done well.
Okay,
and as long as it clicks with me. Two more. The Wiz.
Yeah, that's an odd choice.
Yeah, I saw it again. If I find these things cheap, some of my stores have been really good about marking their stuff down at just $1 or so.
Yeah.
Some very entertaining choreography. A lot of big dance numbers. Some of them really impressive. The Munchkins in this are like graffiti art, and they pop out of the walls. It's kind of creepy. They're all in silhouette, and they come out of the walls and creep Dorothy out and everything. So if anyone doesn't know, it's the Wizard of Oz, just in like a New York City, like 1970s New York City vibe. Terrible music, just awful.
I've never seen it. It's one of those movies that everyone who's seen it said it's terrible. Like I should not watch it. So
Ease on Down the Road is a great song.
Oh, that's right.
Everything else in the movie, all the songs are terrible. There's nothing catchy or memorable about any of them. It's too long. It's an hour and 34 minutes. And there are some very impressive visual effects, costumes and things. Richard Pryor's in it, but even his scenes aren't that great. Meh. Yeah. There are some good moments, but I don't know if it's worth sitting through the entire movie to get to them.
Diana Ross is in that too, right?
Diana Ross is in it.
Yeah.
Very talented singer singing terrible songs. Last movie. In honor of Raquel Welch's passing.
Yes.
I put on Bandolero.
I do not know this movie.
Jimmy Stewart, Dean Martin, George Kennedy.
Oh.
It's a not that good Western.
Oh.
Not that good.
Who directed that one?
Andrew V. M.C. Lagan. Andrew V. McLagan?
No. Don't know.
Never heard of him. Jerry Goldsmith did the music, though. It's got interesting music.
Okay.
It's just a story about there are some killers that are caught in a little town, and they're about to be hanged. Then Jimmy Stewart's character comes in, and you don't know anything about him, but you know that he's got a connection. He hears the name, like, oh, those Bishop boys are going to get hanged. And he starts heading out there, and then stuff happens. I won't spoil it. But then a lot of it is the sheriff and his posse chasing down the escaped convicts as they go into Mexico. And then it's just scene after scene after scene of, we're going this way. Oh, we're following them. We're going this way. We're still following them, and it's like nothing is happening. It's just
How long is it?
It's not even 2 hours. It feels like a lot longer. An hour and 7 minutes. 147 minutes.
Oh, it's 100. How long?
So 1 hour and
47 minutes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Eh.
Mm.
Eh. I don't know. Every time Raquel Welch showed up, it was fun. 1968 Raquel Welch.
Okay. Wow. At least you had something to look at.
Yeah, that's about it. Jimmy Stewart's pretty old in this.
He would have been. Yeah.
I wasn't aware. I don't know how, like, when he was born or anything, but I think all the movies I can think of him in are in black and white. So
Mm-hmm.
I imagine my 68 is pretty old.
Yeah.
Those are all the movies that I watched. The other movie things I did was I read some scripts. I read a bunch of movie scripts. I read. I made a list. I read these. Most of these are like early drafts, sometimes quite different from the final film. Tremors, Groundhog Day, Blade, Army of Darkness, Gremlins, Ghostbusters 2, and Willow. And there was a Twilight Zone episode in there that I read as well.
Now, why are you reading movie scripts?
I don't know. I studied screenwriting when I was in college, and I recently discovered that there is a very easy to access site called IMSDB, Internet Movie Screenplay Database. And you can go on there and you can read a whole bunch of scripts. Sometimes they're not formatted correctly, which is annoying. But I had a great time reading an early draft of Gremlins that was more like a horror movie than a comedy horror movie. And there was no Gizmo in that version of the script.
Oh, wow.
They were all just nasty gremlins. And Billy hated Gizmo when he was given him as a pet. And he was, instead of an artist, like a comic book artist, he was a writer who was into Dungeons and Dragons. And he carries a sword the entire movie. And he's like constantly hacking up gremlins. In that version, his dog dies, his mom dies, the Corey Feldman character dies. It's like a much darker movie. The Ghostbusters 2 script, there was an extra scene where Ray gets possessed, and he's driving around in the Ecto-1 and he tries to kill everybody.
Yeah, I think that was in the novelization.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. And then there was that, in that scene in Ghostbusters 2 where they're in some sort of jewelry store or something like that. It's just shown for a brief moment in the montage.
Yeah.
They're in a jewelry store and they set off lasers and everything explodes.
Yeah.
That was a whole thing in the movie that was cut. Was that
there was a little bit more in there. The only thing that really sticks out is that after everything crashes down, Ray turns to the owner and is like, so cash or check?
Yeah, okay, I do remember that. Yeah, that was in the novelization too.
Yeah, there were a couple of things in there that it's a shame that they were cut, because there's one line in the courtroom that explained kind of like a little plot hole where it's when the sewer worker's up on the stand. And he's like, I've been working in the sewers for 27 years. I never seen anything like that. If it was there, they must have put it there. But he also has a line where he says, we went down the next day and we didn't see anything, which, you would expect them to like investigate. What are they doing down there?
Yeah,
and
or
then,
see what kind of damage they did. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Egon has a little aside. He's like, oh, it must ebb and flow like a tide, and trying to explain why nobody would see.
Right.
And just say like, oh, these guys who once saved the city, were actually right. There's something down there.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're going to say something?
I was going to ask you, how long does it take to read a movie script?
Oh, I read them kind of fast, and especially since I was reading scripts for movies I've already seen, So you kind of go into it with all the imagery and everything. So you can read them a bit faster. I don't really know. They always say like one screenplay page equals 1 minute on screen.
Okay.
Like one page is 1 minute roughly, but I mean, not that long. If you're reading like a 90-page script, maybe you can do it in like an hour.
It's just when I see some actors and actresses say, "Yeah, I read the script," and I'm like, did they really read the script? Because they don't seem like a person that would read anything.
Well, it's interesting in that I'm one of the reasons that I'm reading a lot of them is trying to see what the standard formatting style is and how much you put into your action lines. Because when I was in school, my screenwriting teacher told me like you can only write what you can see or what you can hear. You can't get into the depth of the character too much because that's what you do in novels.
Right.
Here you've got to see everything. You got to hear everything. But then I would read some scripts over the years, like I remember reading Good Will Hunting years ago. And then there's a scene in there where Matt Damon and Robin Williams hug. And in the script, it was written, they hug as father and son. And I'm like, are you allowed to say that? Or are you just supposed to simply say they hug? How much detail are you allowed to write in there? And basically what I'm getting from it is that when you write your action lines, you write it as if you're telling what's happening, but you can't go too deep. So sometimes in scripts, there's a bit of information that seems like that's a little bit over the line. You shouldn't do that. Or that's way too simple. You got to give it enough flavor to really set the scene and the context and the tone and everything. So I'm curious to see how a lot of people have written them, to see like, so when an actor, a director, or whatever reads this script and they're like, okay, I see something there. I can't confuse this scene. This is, the writer has put it into place and everything. So,
are you writing a movie script? Is that what's happening?
I have written movie scripts. I do keep it up as a hobby. I do.
So why don't you? Have you tried selling them or what?
No. I'm way too out of practice. You gotta know what you're doing before you do something like that. But I have been writing Twilight Zone episodes to amuse myself.
That's cool.
So that's why I read a Twilight Zone script.
So where can we read some of your scripts?
If you want, when it's done, I'll send you a copy.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely do want to read that.
It is my one of my hobbies.
That's interesting. So are you writing one right now?
I am, yes.
And how many have you written in the past? Like how many?
I have another one that I wrote that needs to be revised. I got to go back and look at it. But yeah, I'm in the mood to do this sort of thing again. So,
because that's what it sounds like to me. You're kind of
oh yeah, it is.
These scripts are kind of like,
yeah, I want to see the style of how you got to have some comparison.
Absolutely.
Of like what are you putting this towards? So
well, that's all part of the process, right? The learning process.
Yes,
like how
which is why it's extremely annoying when you go to that site and it's not formatted correctly. Or you see something that's written extremely simple. Like I read the Willow script, which is also very interesting because hey, Scotch on the rocks.
That's my pal Deke.
Scotch on the rocks.
That's right.
So like Willow is totally different too. Lots of different things happening there. Like he went out by himself. He didn't go with Migosh and Burglecut and all them. He just goes out on his own, and he doesn't have a wand. He has a philosopher's stone that he makes along the journey, and a lot of the stuff's the same. But then there are parts of the script where it's like Mad Mardigan fights the soldiers. He kills the soldiers. It's like is this like just was the writer just putting down that rough first draft or something?
Right. Yeah.
Like, and then there's other parts where it's like the language is a lot more.
Well, when they write those scripts, they don't have an entire scene choreographed yet, right? So they don't put in all that detail, right?
It depends on like if you're writing your own script, an unsolicited script or something, you're not supposed to do that. because you're basically doing the director's job. You're assuming the director's job, saying, well, this should be a close up of this and this. You're not supposed to do that. I imagine if you are writing under contract for a studio or something, and you're working with the director and the cinematographer, and you're talking about all this stuff, and you say, okay, you do this, and then you start numbering your scenes, and you start saying, okay, this can be a close up, or we're gonna, do a pan here or whatever, and all that can be worked in there. But that is another point of why I want to read a lot of scripts, because I was always unsure. My screenwriting teacher, she didn't explain stuff very well, and it was never quite clear of how much direction are you allowed to put into a script, because obviously you have to drive the story. You have to say this happens, but sometimes even if you write it in there and it makes sense, director's going to say, well, I don't want that to be a close-up, I want that to be a wide shot, and we're going to throw all this symbolism into the scene. Or I don't want them to shout this, I want this to be a whisper, or the actor will decide, do this way or that way. So I want to get kind of a clear guideline of how much you're supposed to quote unquote direct within the action lines.
Cool.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I've always wanted to write a screenplay, but I don't have the patience for the other, like the dialogue. That'd be fun to write, but the whole like setting up scenes and stuff like that just seems really tedious to me, and I wouldn't.
Read some old Twilight Zone scripts, because Rod Serling wrote a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, well, you had to back then, right? You didn't have a lot of room for special effects, so.
Well, I mean, still you have to get the basics of he enters the store, he looks around,
yeah.
he finds this item.
Yeah, that stuff's tedious to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Okay, cool. All right.
Okay, I'm going to cut my 45-minute rant here.
That was good. I enjoyed it. Okay, well, it's good because I really haven't been watching. I've been naughty, and I haven't been watching very many films. We did have Bad Movie Night.
Mm-hmm.
Last weekend? I can't remember. I think it was last.
I'm glad that's continuing. That sounds like fun.
And we watched so like you might have recalled that I talked about Velocipaster.
Oh yes,
and you guys all poo-pooed on it. You're like, I don't like movies that try to be funny. I just want them to be unintentionally funny. I get it, but I'm telling you, this one's a standout, because the next one we watched, it was called Jurassic Prey.
Mm-hmm.
Same, I think it's the same.
Jurassic
director.
Dead. I've heard of that one.
Well, we haven't watched that one yet, and we got Killosaurus on here too.
Mm-hmm.
This was my buddy Frank. He bought this for $5 at Walmart, so
it's not bad.
Anyways, Jurassic Prey is the kind of movie that you're talking about that just tries to be, it's not even a movie, right? It's like a series of scenes that's pretending to be a movie just to get to like some visual gags of people being ripped apart by a guy in a rubber.
Right. They start with we want these things to happen.
Yeah.
Fill in the rest so we can get there.
Well, you definitely okay, we can shoot at this location. What's here? Oh, there's a cottage over there. There's a lake over here, and there's a rail yard over there. So then they just kind of made the movie around those three things. Like there is one part where they are in the car and there's a rail yard behind them, and they're talking, and the bad guys come up and they like take off, and then they find a place to hide, and the place they're hiding in is the exact same rail yard. It's like those are the exact same cars behind them.
Work with the locations you have.
Steven bought a $5 Nick Cage Blu-ray.
Is it straight to DVD kind of Nick Cage movie?
Probably.
Or are you going back a few years? Or was it the Academy Award winning Nick Cage?
Anyways, Velocipaster, I'm still recommending that one. But Jurassic Prey. Okay, so that's the only physical thing I have. I do have Chopping Mall. That was the second movie we watched, but I forgot to bring it over.
I've never seen it, but I know what that movie is.
So Chopping Mall is these kids that are working at in the mall.
Sorry.
What does it say? Somebody Deke. Years ago, I worked with a lady who told me she felt old and her name was Pat. I called her Jurassic Pat. Didn't go over well. Just saying. That. Oh my goodness, that's funny. The Nick Cage movie Steven got was Color Out of Space from 2019.
Color Out of Space. What is that?
I don't know, but they spelled color wrong. It needs a U in it. Anyways, what was I talking about? Okay, yeah, Chopping Mall. These kids, none of them look like kids because they all look like they're over 35. They are working at a mall, and they decide that they're going to party at the mall. They're just going to hang out at where they work after work and all get together and drink and have sex. And in the meantime, the mall has employed this new security system that is run by robots. And the security system gets fried by some electricity, lightning. It wasn't stormy out. It wasn't raining. There was no other, just one shot of electricity fell down from the sky.
Just happened magical optical effect electricity from the 1980s.
Happened to hit the transformer that these robots were hooked up to, kind of fried them, and then they go nuts.
Sounds like Short Circuit.
It does feel a lot like Short Circuit. So robots do look a lot like Johnny Five. They have tractor tread instead of feet kind of thing. That's how they move around. They can't aim worth crap. They're like, the kids are right in front of them and they're shooting lasers at them, but they can't hit them. There's and none of the kids can shoot their guns very well. They go into a sporting goods store and steal all these guns. The one, like, they're trying to shoot. They get one of the robots into an elevator and they plant propane tanks on top of the elevator. And the plan is to shoot the propane tank and have it explode to blow up the robot. So there's like 3 guys and 2 girls, and they're all up on the higher part of the second floor of the mall. And the robot is down in the elevator. It's a clear glass elevator, the propane tanks, and they're all trying to shoot at it. None of them can hit it. The girl comes up. She says, "Give me the gun." She takes it and she aims, hits a propane tank, blows up the first robot. Good job. She is not allowed to have a gun for the rest of the movie. These idiots who can't shoot worth shit still have all their weapons, still have their shotguns and everything, but she's never given a gun again. The only one that could shoot is not given a gun. But it's a very cheesy movie. It's kind of fun, but also kind of boring. So you just kind of get to the good parts, kind of thing. This one, it's funny, at the end of the movie, they kind of do like the actors who are in the movie, and it's kind of that 80s thing where they got a little shot from the movie, where the actor is, and then put the name, and it's like a freeze image.
Shows that at the end.
Yeah, it's like edit it, and then it stops, and you get the name. Well, this one girl character, she gets her head blown off. So at the end of the movie, they show her, she's like turning around, and her head explodes, and it pauses with her name underneath, and her brains like everywhere. I'm like, that's the shot.
There you go. Somebody was having fun.
I guess so.
I guess if you went through the trouble of having a head explosion.
Yeah.
It's like, I've never seen that movie Scanners, but anytime you look it up, or even like if you look at the packaging for it, it's like they just have that freeze frame right there.
Yeah. I tried watching that. I'm not I think it's Cronenberg, right?
Yeah,
not a big Cronenberg guy. So. I watched 2 films that were nominated for Best Picture this year. One was Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans, which I did not enjoy. It was quite boring.
That's like about his family or something.
It's loosely based on his life story, very loosely based. That's why it's called The Fabelmans. Get it? Fable.
Very clever.
And it does talk about this kid who is really into movies and movie making. Gets a cheap 8mm camera from his dad and starts making all like these little films, and he's enamored with Hollywood and the whole bit. And that stuff was kind of interesting because they would actually show what he did as a kid to compensate for like not having any budget kind of thing.
Mhm.
So like he'd want to shoot, people running down a hill and explosions happening everywhere
Mhm.
around him. So he would dig holes in the ground and then put like a board in the hole. So the actor would run. I mean, this wouldn't pass any sort of ethics code or anything like that now, because the kid could easily, fall into one of those holes and break an ankle.
Mhm.
But the kid would like step on the plank, the piece of wood, and up behind him would be like a puff of dirt would come up behind him, like an explosion.
Okay. Mhm.
And there was one other part where he wanted to. He had a gun battle between two sides, and he's looking at it. It's like, man, this looks really fake. So what he did was he poked holes in the film, like physical holes in the film. So when it played, it looked like the actors were firing, like it would flash, right? Like the guns were firing. So that kind of stuff was really neat. But then it would get into the minutia of his family, and like Seth Rogen is in the film as well. Like within 2 seconds, you could tell like there is like a love triangle thing happening. Like the mom is basically banging his dad and banging Seth Rogen as well. And it just takes forever to get to it. It's just like, okay, we get it. Like, I understand what's happening. Like, let's just go kind of thing. Let's get to, and just, it was so monotonous, like when the film wasn't focused on those aspects of him doing his filmmaking and instead focused on the family. I just wanted to get out of it. So I ended up not finishing it. I think we had about 20 minutes left to go. And I was like, okay, like they weren't, he was already past the point in the film where he was, doing all the tricks, to wow people in the theater for his little movie. So, and it was just all focused on the family towards the end. So, The other film I watched that was nominated was Triangle of Sadness. If you may recall, Curtis was promoting that movie in the chat last episode, and I agree with Curtis's assessment. It is so far out of the movies that were nominated for Best Film, it is the best one I've seen so far. It isn't the genre that it's in. It kind of falls under other movies like The Platform or Parasite, where it's about social class and structure and all that stuff. I don't think it's as strong as those movies, but it's still very well done. And it's one of those movies that the less you know about it going in, the better, because there are some turns that the story takes that I really appreciated not knowing in advance. Because where the movie starts off at the beginning is not where it ends. It does. I will warn you, though, the ending is one of those vague endings. It doesn't really explain everything. I don't feel as if it has to. I think it said everything it wanted to say, but that might annoy some people, because I know some people they want to know exactly what happened. But there's I'll just give you one observation that the movie makes. It was at the beginning of the film. This guy is going in for he's a male model, and he's trying to get in. It was some photo shoot for some cologne or something like that, and the guy is giving them everybody instructions on modeling. It's basically just warming them up for their audition. And he's like, okay, I want you to pretend that you're selling cheap clothing, right? And so the models, they all smile. They all have like these big smiles, like they're selling, cheap clothing. And then he's like, okay, now you're selling, something high end, like a Armani suit or something. And they all frown, like they're looking down on you. And he kept going back and forth, right? Like Sears, smile, Armani, and it just kind of stuff like that. So I enjoyed that one. Okay, so the next three movies were sort of mostly in the 80s. We got some 80 and B movie cheese.
Okay.
All right. This is all in Richard's wheelhouse.
Yes.
First movie I watched, this is actually Steven Eider posted about this movie. Hey, we got Chris Roberts here. Planet of the Tapes. Yep.
Oh,
That's his moniker, I think, on TikTok. I think he's got a big TikTok following there on Planet of the Tapes. So the first B movie that I watched, some say that this movie is tied in with Roger Corman, but he wasn't in any of the credits or anything like that. But the movie's called Dead Space. And Steven Eider posted about this one. And I saw that. And I'm like, I want to watch that. So I downloaded it, even though it's on Tubi. The quality of the download I had was the exact same as the quality on Tubi. And I don't have to sit through ads on my download. So it's a very budget version of Aliens. And it's got a very young, it's got your boy, Mark Singer in it as the lead. And then Bryan Cranston is in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as a supporting role. And you could definitely see how he is an actor who has evolved from those films, and the other ones have kind of stayed in that genre.
He was in Power Rangers.
Bryan Cranston?
He did voices for some of the monsters.
Oh, okay. Well, good for him. There you go. Oh, yeah. Okay. Get it on Plex. It says Rocket Sauce. So Creepy Josh, if you're listening, get it on Plex. Yeah, it was, but it's, it's mostly a fun movie, but it's kind of boring too. Like when it gets to the fun parts, it's fun, but you got to sit through a lot of minutia to get there. Basically it was some sort of virus that breaks out onto this little, what do you call it? Like, space station. Yeah. Space station on a planet kind of thing. And, it starts, it mutates from a human, but then the alien itself looks more like a dinosaur. It's kind of weird. It doesn't look like a human at all, but I guess neither did the xenomorph, and it popped out. You got a chest burster scene in the film that's not nearly as well as done as Alien.
Well, tough competition.
Yeah. And there's like some weird, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's how they edited the movie or if they had some ideas and they didn't get to shooting. Like, he's got like this one partner. His partner's like an android that follows him around. They all call it a robot, but it's a guy in a rubber suit. And at one point, he's outside and he's talking to one of the scientists, female scientists, and she's like, "Why don't you come into my room?" And he's like, "I kind of got stuff to do." And then the robot just kind of like falls down, and he picks her up. He's like, "Oh, let me bring you inside the room." So he brings his android friend inside the room. Next thing, those two are making out. You get to see some. There's some nudity in the film, and they get it done. And then the next thing you know, the android's just walking around like everything's fine. I'm like, what happened to the android? Like, did he need to be recharged, or did he just want to watch them do it? Like I don't know what happened. There's another part where they're up on. I had to rewind it for Sarah because they're up on. They eventually go outside into the planet. The planet looks a lot like the desert in California, but sometimes planets do look like a desert in California. And they're climbing a mountain for some reason to reach the alien. I couldn't really exactly follow why they were doing it, but at one point, the camera's on Mark Singer and it's following him walking up this mountain. And in the background, you can clearly see the crew where they parked all their cars because there's like a Chrysler LeBaron like right there in the front. Good stuff.
Rocket Sauce says the robot was filming.
Maybe he was. I don't know. Keeping it all, and that recharged him somehow, or fixed him. Whatever was wrong with him, I don't know. Okay, so that was Dead Space. The next movie we watched was The Hitcher.
The Hitcher.
Yeah. What we talking? Yeah, I mentioned to you about the Arrow thing, right? They had have a sale on Arrow movies on.
Yeah. I just don't know what The Hitcher is.
So The Hitcher is like a horror kind of movie. It stars Rutger Hauer as he's this guy hitchhiking. And the kid is played by C. Thomas Howell. This kid is driving, huge rainstorm. He's out in the desert. He's bringing a car. he's from Illinois, and he's bringing a car to California. Somehow he ends up in Texas. I don't know how, because if you were driving from Illinois to California, going down to Texas would be way out of your way, like that.
No.
Anyways, whatever. It's raining in the desert for some reason as well. He's out there in a rainstorm, and C. Thomas Howell passes by Rutger Hauer, who's in a trench coat. He's got his thumb out. He's like, oh man, it's raining. I'll pick this guy up. Picks this guy up. Turns out to be a complete psycho. Has committed murders and ends up blaming it on C. Thomas Howell. The movie itself isn't very good, but Rutger Hauer's performance is really good. Like Hannibal Lecter level of good.
Okay.
He's just in this really, bad movie. What's her face? Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it as well. Her accent, she's supposed to be from Texas, and her accent keeps flip-flopping and all over the place. It wasn't great, but there are 2 more Hitcher movies, and I kind of want to watch them. I just kind of want to see where, for some reason, I just want to see where this thing's going, because I don't know. It was kind of, it's, cheesy 80s. It had the soundtrack. It was suspenseful enough, but it just kind of dragged. Like a lot of parts, like it was just kind of a slog to get through some of the parts, to get to the better parts of the film.
One 80s Rutger Hauer movie that I remember liking, I haven't seen it in a while, is Blind Fury. Have you seen that one?
It sounds familiar.
He's like a blind guy. I think he was blinded in a war, and then he studies like ninjutsu or something. He walks around with a cane that has a sword inside of it.
Okay.
And he has to like transport some like little kid somewhere. Mm-hmm. And he kills a bunch of people with a sword.
Well, anyways, The Hitcher, it gets absurd at times. But the good moments are okay. I gave it 2 stars. I'm not fully recommending it, but whatever. And then so then finally the last movie I watched The Reanimator.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Jeffrey Combs.
That's right. Now, I gotta say, I gave the movie 2.5 stars, but I think I screwed up, because the movie starts, it opens up, and the first 5 minutes of this movie, it's amazing. It's like I looked over at Sarah and like, we are in for an amazing ride. This looks like so much fun.
Are you talking about the Psycho score?
Well, yeah, we did comment on how the score was that is that really the Psycho score, or did the guy just like make Psycho like music?
It really sounds like it's Psycho. There's a couple little flares to it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But it really sounds like it is just Psycho with a little bit of fluff on it.
Yeah.
But, it works.
It does. It does.
I mean, it's effective score.
Well, it was effective in Psycho.
It had like all those images of the, there's like brains and stuff or you know.
Yeah, no, that was after there was like a 5-minute cold open where it's Jeffrey Combs in Sweden, and he's walking towards, or no, he's not walking. There's like a couple security guys that are walking towards a room, and they break into the room and they open it. It's a laboratory, and Jeffrey Combs is in there, and there's like a zombie guy in there, and he's like, slamming him down kind of thing. And basically he gets kicked out of the Swedish place because he's up to nefarious things. So that part was really awesome. That was cool. And then the opening, I did enjoy the opening and all the imagery and all that stuff. Then we get to the movie when they're in the United States, and Jeffrey Combs is now in the United States, and he's trying to restart this thing that he did in Sweden, but with a different doctor who stole a lot of the material from the doctor in Sweden. And Sarah says, we got 10 minutes. So I'll be able to finish this in 10 minutes. So from there, the movie just keeps dragging. it just keeps going on, and it kind of repeats itself. And then it finally gets to the part where Jeffrey Combs reanimates a dead cat, and that part was pretty good. But then it keeps dragging on and repeating itself and all that. Then we finally get to maybe it was either the last half hour or 20 minutes, and that part was really good. The movie goes off the rails, and this is what you kind of expect from seeing the first 5 minutes of the movie. So after I was finished watching it, I go over to Letterboxd to type in my review, and I say exactly that. I said this movie has some great parts, but there are some parts that it really drags. And then when I finished my review and I gave it 2.5 stars and I closed it, it takes me to the Reanimator main page, and right on there it says the film length is 82 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the film I watched. The film I watched was 1 hour and 47 minutes long.
Really?
Yeah. So I think what happened is I watched the extended edition of the film.
Huh.
And that is why it dragged. So
yeah, because I remember that movie being fairly short.
No, it was 1 hour. The version we watched was 1 hour and 47, and it repeats itself over and over again. Like there's the guy that he is in his medical course thing, whatever they call that, not an internship, but whatever they call it. He's learning to become a doctor, and he's at the college, and he's having a relationship with the dean's daughter, and they're trying to hide the thing and all that. And I swear to God, like they go through the same dialogue like 3 or 4 times. And that's the conclusion I came to, is I must have watched an extended edition of the film instead of the 82-minute version, which pisses me off, because Resident, as Sarah says, yeah, he's the Resident, because I ruined my first viewing of the Reanimator, and I wish they wouldn't I wish that they would not do these stupid extended editions of movies.
Yeah,
just give me the movie that everybody likes. You know?
Was this an Arrow release?
So I downloaded off the internet. I just downloaded the Reanimator.
Okay. Yeah, it says some of the more recent Blu-ray releases include a 105-minute integral cut, which restores all of the deleted plot scenes used in the censored R-rated releases, full uncensored version. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you got a bad first impression. You saw like what the editors were seeing.
Yeah, I guess. Hey, I got no problem with uncensored. Let me tell you, like the
uncensored, nothing. But yeah, obviously they filmed those scenes, and they're like, okay, which one are we going to use? How much are we going to use? Cut it down to this. This works.
Yeah, and that's the part I wish I would have seen, because now I kind of like. I want to see that part, but I don't want to. I want to see that version of the film, but I don't want to watch it right now. You know, like maybe in a year's time or something like that. You know.
Yeah, I've got a copy. I know Duke is a big fan of that movie too. I enjoyed the second one as well, The Bride of Reanimator. It's not as good, but
there is
the
Bride
stuff.
of Reanimator, and then was it Reanimator?
There's like another one that was made fairly recently, maybe within the past 10 to 15 years.
It says 2003 here.
2003, okay. Oh, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. But I enjoyed Reanimator. There's a lot of fun stuff in there.
Well,
the stuffed cat taped to Jeffrey Combs' back.
Yes. We had a good laugh at that. That was pretty good too. Oh, that was the thing with Dead Space too, is the monster kept attacking people in the face, but it wasn't like a face hugger. It was like still the mid-size. Anyways, it would attack him in the face, and you could tell the actors were like just holding on to the thing, like it was like this big thing, and they're just like it's a baby.
Oh yeah, I mean, in Reanimator, you get the guy holding his head in front of his stomach.
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff was.
It's silly, but the other way, like you say, it goes off the rails. When it goes off the rails, it's like fantastic.
See you, Dick.
Bye.
Yeah, that whole like last 20 minutes of that, I was having fun with that. That stuff was all good, but it needed to get
like
there.
Half a dozen cadavers getting up or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. but the version I saw too, if it was unrated, I mean, the woman in the movie, Barbara Crampton, like you saw everything. It was
Oh, that's in the
okay.
Theatrical cut too.
Like there was even one part where he's carrying her into the hospital at the very end, and you could see like he's holding her like this, and she wasn't wearing any underwear, and you could see. I was.
She went
I was
all in
impressed.
for that movie.
She was
in for
she was
Reanimator.
committed. She was committed to her role. There you go. So that was it. Those are all the movies I had watched. Not a lot, but I think I got some quality in there, and I can finally
tacos.
Ooh, putting the tacos in the ovens now. Wrap it up, please. Okay. Well, there you go. That's it. Yeah, I mean,
Fandango over. We can't compete with tacos.
They're warm tacos. They're crunchy. You got to go for it. Oh,
there you go.
That's it. But I talked about every movie I want to talk about, so it's all good. Okay.
Fantastic.
Should we mention that we might not be back for a little while, or?
Well, yeah, we're gonna have like 3 to 4 weeks before the next episode.
Yeah, it might be a month, might be a little less, but
roundabout.
So enjoy this episode. Listen to it again. Savor it. Maybe we should have mentioned that at the start. Make sure you savor this episode, because
you know what you should do? Go back, watch the video, because if you look at Kevin, the way his zipper is angled and framed between the two cords there, it looks like you're wearing the flux capacitor.
I wish I was. But yeah, this is the first time in a long time that my hoodie has very nicely shaped itself instead of disheveled. I finally look good.
Yes, and it's very appropriate because we're out of time.
All right, that's it. I can't top that. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.